Me working with Nicki Minaj has nothing to do with going against Kim. When Kim works with other producers, when she raps with other artists, I'm not getting upset. It's not a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
There were times when I did feel like he treated me unfairly, but I was so massively in love with this man. Yeah. And
Lil Kim has been through the ringer, and it seems Diddy played a bigger role in her struggles than most people realized. While he was supposed to be her mentor, there were a lot of shady things happening behind the scenes that went way beyond just helping her career. As Kim rose to fame in the rap world, she found herself in a complicated and chaotic relationship with Biggie. What looked like a sweet romance from the outside was anything but. Behind closed doors, Kim faced some real trauma, from forced abortions to having guns pulled on her. And then there are those long-standing rumors about Diddy being behind Biggie's death to cash in on his legacy. But according to Lil Kim, Diddy wasn't the only one benefiting from Biggie's tragic passing. JayZ allegedly made tens of millions from it, too. Let's dive into this whole Lil Kim and Diddy drama because it's wild. Let's take a trip back over 25 years to a pivotal moment in hip-hop history when Biggie, known as the Notorious B.I.G., was tragically murdered in 1997 after leaving a party in Los Angeles. His untimely death sent shockwaves throughout the music industry, leaving fans and fellow artists alike reeling. At the time, many people attributed his killing to the escalating feud between East Coast and West Coast rap crews. On one side, you had Bad Boy Records, proudly representing the East Coast, with Diddy at the helm. On the other side, Death Row Records was the powerhouse of the West Coast, led by Dr. Dre and Suge Knight. Biggie was Diddy's golden goose, raking in substantial profits for Bad Boy Records. He wasn't just a rising star, he was the East Coast's answer to Tupac Shakur, and when Tupac was murdered, Biggie quickly ascended to the throne as the undisputed king of hip-hop. However, when Biggie expressed a desire to leave Bad Boy and pursue his own path, Diddy was reportedly unwilling to let his cash cow slip away. Rumors circulated that Diddy felt threatened by Biggie's ambition and was prepared to take drastic measures to ensure his continued dominance in the industry. According to Uncle Ron, Diddy's former bodyguard, there were whispers that Diddy, along with JayZ, allegedly wanted Biggie silenced. This whole situation gets even more intriguing when you consider how JayZ skyrocketed to the top of the music industry after Biggie's passing. Lil Kim is now suggesting that this was all part of a plan orchestrated by Diddy and JayZ. Their bond is well known, often seen as one of the strongest and most influential relationships in Hollywood. They've been friends for years, and even before Kim's recent allegations, there were whispers that they might have been involved in some shady dealings together, covering their tracks. As Uncle Ron pointed out, it was all about business for them. For Diddy, losing Biggie wasn't just a personal loss. It would have been a major blow to his empire. Biggie was the cornerstone of Bad Boy Records, and if he had chosen to leave, it could have sent Diddy's carefully built label crashing down, especially since Biggie had plans to take other lucrative artists with him. The stakes were incredibly high, and you can see how desperate Diddy might have been to keep Biggie on his side. Ron didn't hold back, revealing some shocking details. He claimed that Diddy offered him a staggering $30,000 to carry out the grim task of eliminating Biggie. This shocking revelation came when I discovered he wanted all the rights to Biggie's catalog. I turned him down because that same night, I learned that Biggie was planning to leave Bad Boy. It was a terrible decision for him to be in California promoting an album while dealing with a broken fibula. Who in their right mind would push someone in that condition to go to another studio when Diddy has his own studio in New York? Diddy is pure evil. He has a nasty disposition and treats everyone like dirt. Every employee he's ever had, including his own mother, has felt his disdain. They've belittled people, treating them as if they were the lowest of the low just to maintain control and get their way. John Deal, another former bodyguard of Diddy, didn't call him out directly, but he made it clear that Diddy's hands weren't clean in all of this. He dropped hints that suggested he believes Diddy had a role in Biggie's murder, making it obvious that he thinks something sinister was at play. Do you understand what I'm saying? The only person who had the opportunity to do that was someone from the street team. They were all in on it, taking on certain tasks without me even knowing about it at the time. I didn't realize until years later that those stickers were placed on the car. Anytime you see anything like that, whether it's on a vehicle, a street sign, or a wall, it comes from the street team. So clearly someone was directed to do that because they didn't stick it on Puff's car and those vehicles were rented. Putting those stickers on is essentially defacing property, and someone has to pay for that. The whole situation suggested that someone from our crew wanted it known that Biggie was in that vehicle. Gene dropped some major intel about Biggie wanting to leave Bad Boy Records. Yeah, he was serious about getting out, and he was determined to make a move. He said, "But I'm about to get this money." Then he showed me something that really opened my eyes. "You about to get that money?" I asked, curious. He nodded, excitedly revealing a contract. It included names like Charlie Baltimore, Cameron, Lil Cease, Lil Kim, and the Junior Mafia, along with Tracy Lee and the Commission. From what he told me, the contract was worth around $62 million over several years. I couldn't help but exclaim, "That's what I said." It was a staggering amount, and it was clear that Biggie was ready to make some serious moves in his career. Biggie was on a mission to secure his publishing rights and put a stop to Diddy from swiping his cash flow. According to Gene, Diddy was essentially robbing Biggie blind, cashing in on his talent while leaving him high and dry. Biggie was not just the face of Bad Boy Records, he was the cornerstone of the label's success. As Biggie started to realize the depths of Diddy's exploitation, he was ready to fight back, but the stakes were incredibly high. Now let's dive into the complicated relationship between Lil Kim and Diddy. Back in the day, she and Biggie were inseparable, with a deep bond that transcended friendship. They had a romantic relationship, even while Biggie was married to Faith Evans. Kim and Biggie were a powerhouse duo in the hip-hop scene, with their chemistry and shared ambitions fueling their rise. But when Biggie was tragically murdered, Kim's relationship with Diddy took a nosedive. The fallout was intense, and she held on to that grudge like it was her lifeline. For a while, many speculated that her animosity toward Diddy stemmed from his collaboration with Nicki Minaj, who has long been considered her arch-rival. However, Kim cleared the air, stating that it wasn't merely about Nicki. She pointed fingers at Diddy for being disloyal and shady, convinced that he was hiding the truth about Biggie's murder. To her, it was clear. Diddy had knowledge of what really happened and was keeping quiet, all for the sake of the Benjamins. Imagine this. Fans everywhere are vibing to the smooth beats of Biggie and Lil Kim, believing they're witnessing the ultimate hip-hop power couple. But beneath the glitz and glamour, the reality is far from perfect. Lil Kim is tangled in a whirlwind of drama and heartache, grappling with emotional and physical mistreatment from her on and off partner, which paints a starkly different picture of her life. Let's take a closer look at Kim's journey. Growing up in Brooklyn, she faces significant hurdles. With a mother who struggles to keep the household together and a father who certainly isn't winning any Dad of the Year awards, her childhood is fraught with challenges. Things take a turn for the worse when she starts dating at just 13, sneaking around behind her father's back. But when he catches wind of her activities, chaos erupts, and the verbal and physical aggression becomes unbearable. Eventually, Kim finds herself out on her own, forced to navigate life without a stable support system. She becomes a nomad, bouncing from place to place, crashing on couches, and trying to make it through each day. This isn't just a phase, it's survival mode. Kim hustles hard, taking on whatever gigs she can find to make ends meet. But the struggle is relentless. Unfortunately, some men start offering her things in exchange for favors, placing her in uncomfortable situations that further complicate her life. Despite the turmoil, Kim remains determined. The music scene beckons, and she's eager to break free from her painful past and make a name for herself. Then, out of the blue, fate throws Lil Kim a major curveball. One day, she's hanging out on a street corner when she crosses paths with a 19-year-old Biggie Smalls. Captivated by the moment, Kim decides to showcase her skills, launching into an impromptu performance right then and there. And guess what? Biggie is completely vibing with her flow. He recognizes her raw talent and extends an invitation for her to join his crew, Junior Mafia. It's a big deal. She's the only girl in the crew, and she's about to make her mark in a male-dominated industry. But Kim's ambitions extend beyond music. At the time, she's in a relationship with Sean Powell, a guy who's no stranger to trouble. Sean is serving time for robbery, facing an uphill battle with an 8.5-year prison sentence. Despite the circumstances, Kim remains fiercely loyal, making the effort to visit him in prison as often as she can. However, as time goes by, the passion begins to fizzle, and they eventually call off the engagement. Meanwhile, the chemistry between Kim and Biggie starts to heat up. Their connection is electric, transcending the usual friendship and clicking on an entirely different level. Here's the twist, though. Biggie is already married to his high school sweetheart, Jan Jackson. While everyone reminisces about their time in Junior Mafia and the hits they churn out, the reality is much more complicated. Biggie and Kim's relationship is a whirlwind from the start, filled with passion and drama. The plot thickens as they embark on a secret affair that lasts an astonishing 4 years. Even more shocking during this time, Biggie marries Faith Evans while continuing to sneak around with Kim. Now, picture this. Lil Kim sitting in the audience at her ex-boyfriend's wedding, all while they're still secretly hooking up behind his new wife's back. Talk about a tangled web. Some might label that as disrespectful, but in the intense world of hip-hop, Kim's loyalty to Biggie ran deep, and that bond transcended conventional boundaries. What's even crazier is that while everyone around them seemed to know the deal, Faith Evans, Biggie's new wife, had no clue. She genuinely believed that Kim and Biggie were just work friends. Imagine the disbelief and heartbreak when she finally uncovered the truth. In a revealing interview, Kim opens up about their connection, emphasizing that it went far beyond music. She describes herself as Biggie's friend, lover, and confidant, the person who inspired him and with whom he shared a profound connection. And poor Faith? She was blissfully unaware of the betrayal unfolding right under her nose, completely in the dark about the emotional storm swirling around her. Sometimes, when you're not looking for something, you simply miss the signs. Kim reflects on this in her interview, acknowledging that she wasn't on the lookout for any clues that might hint at the reality of the situation. I mean, you know what I mean. I wasn't looking for that to be the case, so I wasn't paying attention to anything that might have been a clue because that was just the furthest thing from my mind, she shares. First things first. Faith Evans had her suspicions about the tension brewing between her husband, Biggie, and Lil Kim. In her memoir, she candidly shared how Biggie often yelled at Kim, even threatening to kick her out of Junior Mafia. Can you believe he would treat her that way? Faith recounted one incident where she overheard Biggie screaming at Kim, dismissing her by saying she ain't special and going so far as to threaten to replace her with Foxy Brown. Then there's the infamous Get Money music video featuring a striking lookalike of Faith. In her memoir, Faith set the record straight, revealing that she was actually approached to be in the video, but declined immediately. I wasn't speaking to him, so I was like, no, tell him to, tell him to ask his girlfriend, Faith explained. Her pride and frustration during that tumultuous period overshadowed any desire to play nice, especially when things were so rocky between her and Biggie. I was just really immature and stubborn at that time, she admitted, adding, but at the same time I was like, why am I going to be in the video? And here's the kicker. The song wasn't even about her. Faith's suspicions deepened when she noticed Kim's subtle digs, even though they barely knew each other. It was a shock, But I think it was more so a shock that the way I even started questioning it was because she got on the radio and was speaking about his and my relationship, which was just so uncharacteristic, Faith reflected. Biggie was typically protective of their relationship, often shutting down any external chatter. I know he didn't tell her to do that. If anything, he would be like, shutting you down, like, keep your mouth closed or don't say anything, she continued. It didn't add up to Faith, leaving her questioning the motives behind Kim's words. But as she concluded, it is what it is. Faith Evans's instincts were sharper than she realized. Biggie actually admitted to me that he was having a relationship with Kim, the whole time, like for years after I asked him, Faith recounted, her voice tinged with a mix of disbelief and betrayal. But I didn't know anything about them for... This is probably at least a year and a half after we were together. I didn't even think anything about them, to be quite honest. The reality hit Faith hard when she caught them together on Christmas Eve. Can you imagine walking in on your partner and your rival in bed? The shock sent Faith into a rage, and she didn't hold back, throwing punches at Kim in the heat of the moment. But as soon as the adrenaline faded, reality set in, and Faith quickly realized who she was attacking. Talk about an awkward moment. But the drama didn't end there. In a fit of fury, Kim retaliated by scratching the paint on Faith's car and even made a chilling threat, saying she would blow Faith's brains out. It sounds outrageous, but this was the volatile world they were navigating, full of intense emotions and high stakes. According to Faith, the relationship was so captivating that it felt like love at first sight. Or at least that's the narrative she stuck to. Then, in a twist that only deepened the drama, Faith discovered she was pregnant in 1996. Little did she know, Kim was also carrying Biggie's child, which added yet another layer of tension to their already fraught relationship. Kim found out about her pregnancy while they were in the studio recording tracks for Hardcore. Lil Kim was fully aware of the precarious situation she was in, and yet she couldn't help herself. I already knew the kind of relationship that Biggie and I had, and I knew that having a child was something that couldn't take place, she confessed in a 1999 interview with The Source. The stakes were high, and she understood the implications of being involved with a married man, yet her feelings for Biggie were too strong to walk away. However, their relationship was far from a fairy tale. Behind the glamour and the music, there were shadows of violence that loomed large. Jermaine Dupri opened up about one particularly intense episode, recounting a moment when Biggie pulled a gun on Kim after she confronted him about cheating with her cousin. "What? You said that you saw Biggie pull out a gun on Lil Kim?" he was asked, and he replied with a heavy acknowledgement, "Oh yeah. When pressed for details, he added, Big was for real. Just leave it. I'm going to leave it right there. Big was really one of these guys. He wasn't playing. He was no fake-ass rapper. Like, you start talking crazy, Big was going to be a problem." Kim confirmed these unsettling truths herself, admitting, "I hate that for a while. That was all I attracted. Violent men. It is what it is. He was everything. You know how it is when you're in the industry. The guys can do whatever they want, but you can't do nothing." But wait, there's more to the saga of Lil Kim and Biggie's tumultuous relationship. In a candid moment, Kim finally opened up about the toxic dynamics that characterized their time together, admitting they had a violent history. She even went as far as to blame Biggie's erratic behavior on his Gemini sign. Seriously? Astrology as an excuse for violence? That's a new one. It's an odd justification, but it reflects the complexity of their bond. Despite the abuse and chaos, Kim still seems to harbor feelings for Biggie, leading some to speculate about trauma bonding, where the emotional connection remains strong despite the pain inflicted. Others, however, are left scratching their heads, unable to fathom why she would still care for someone who treated her so poorly. And if that wasn't enough drama, enter Diddy. Lil Kim has begun to peel back the layers on her former mentor and producer, revealing that he may not be the saint everyone believed him to be. Picture this. Diddy, the prominent figure in the music industry, is allegedly more like a wolf in sheep's clothing, preying on vulnerable women eager to make it big. Kim has been holding on to these revelations for years, but now she's unleashing the truth. She doesn't hold back, describing Diddy as someone who exploits his power and influence to manipulate and mistreat women in the industry. And get this, Lil Kim claims she's got receipts, providing a first-hand account of Diddy's troubling behavior time and time again. But wait, it gets worse. Kim is spilling the tea about one incident that'll make your blood boil. Picture this. A young dancer, just trying to chase her dreams, finds herself on the receiving end of Diddy's advances. But he's not just flirting, he's straight up harassing her. When she has the audacity to shut him down, Diddy loses it. At the end of the day, like Puffy is Puffy, it's all about what he can do, what he can get from people. That's Puffy. It's all about himself a lot of times, Kim reveals. According to Kim, Diddy's temper can escalate in a flash, throwing around threats and insults like they're nothing. He even corners this poor girl backstage, unleashing his rage on her. Just imagine the terror she must have felt, trapped in a situation where someone with so much power is coming at her with hostility and aggression. But it ain't just Kim speaking out. Miss Jones is adding fuel to the fire, too. She revealed a chilling moment when Diddy threatened her on live radio, casually mentioning putting her in a trunk. And I don't want you blowing up my house, or my car, or anything like that. Good night, she recalls, her voice tinged with disbelief. I don't. He already threatened to put me in the trunk of a car. The shock in her voice is palpable. And it's on tape. You know when we take you back in the room to do commercials after you do an interview on the radio, and we take you And he didn't know that the tape was running, and if I hadn't heard it, I wouldn't have believed it. In this sea of chaos, Kim swoops in like a hero, telling Diddy to back off and leave Jones alone. And Lil Kim said, "Leave Jonesy alone. Jonesy don't hurt nobody. Stop," she recalls with a sense of pride. Miss Jones responded, "Yep, you saved me. You're my hero." "Yeah, wow," Kim replies. But here's the kicker. Lil Kim insists this isn't just a one-off situation. According to her, treating women like objects he can own and exploit is Diddy's modus operandi, a twisted mindset that needs to be dismantled. Kim has never been shy about calling him out on it, and this isn't the first time she's aired their dirty laundry in public. In fact, there's an old clip circulating where she spills all the tea about how Diddy cut her off completely when she was incarcerated. Not a single letter, not even a visit. Nothing at all. This betrayal hit Kim hard, especially since she believed they were tight after Biggie's passing. "I roll with Puffy to the bitter end and still would have rolled with him," she lamented. "Puffy never came to see me in prison, not one time. He didn't write me a letter. He didn't say, 'Here's a number for Kim to call.' Not one time. After all the history that we have, not one time." The hurt in her voice is palpable. Adding insult to injury while she was serving her time, Diddy began cozying up to Lil Kim's arch-rival, Nicki Minaj. This felt like a personal betrayal to Kim, who couldn't help but feel sidelined for the new kid on the block. During a performance in Baltimore, she didn't hold back, calling out Diddy from the stage. "And my BTIM show, Puffy, you should be ashamed of yourself," she declared, her voice filled with emotion. "Because at the end of the day, if you're going to roll with anybody that hard, you should be rolling with me that hard. If you're going to rock with anybody that hard, you know what I mean, and you can never make another big camera. That's not going to happen. It's never going to happen." And then there's the whole Nicki Minaj comparison. Lil Kim, the original queen bee of rap, found herself increasingly frustrated as it appeared that Diddy was grooming Nicki to be her replacement. When Kim confronted Nicki, many dismissed her as just being bitter, as if she was merely clinging to past glory. And you seem like the old you remember players, people would say, minimizing her concerns. But Kim had a powerful rebuttal declaring, "Let me tell you why you're wrong, and let me tell you why you dead wrong, because it's deeper than that." This was not just a personal grudge. It was about Diddy strategically positioning Nicki to overshadow everything Kim had worked for throughout her illustrious career. Imagine pouring your heart and soul into building your legacy, only to watch your mentor ditch you for the next shiny thing on the block. For Kim, this felt like betrayal at its deepest level. Picture this. After her release from jail, Kim was ready to reclaim her place in the spotlight, only to find Diddy lacking the love and recognition she rightfully deserved. She recalled a time in Miami when Diddy brought her into his studio. "I would be in New York and we'd be working. We were constantly talking," she remembered. It seemed promising, almost like a reunion of sorts. Diddy even expressed interest in featuring her on his album, which only added to her sense of betrayal when he failed to follow through. But hold up. It gets even more twisted. Diddy thought it would be a smart move to address Lil Kim's reaction to his new collaboration with Nicki Minaj during an interview, but all he managed to do was pour gasoline on the fire. The tension was palpable as the interviewer pressed him, saying, "Lil Kim is talking crazy out the side of the mouth. What is up with Kimberly Jones right now? She is talking mad. She is mad at the world, and she is mad at you, Puff. What do you have to say to address this?" Diddy responded with a mix of deflection and misplaced affection. "I want to say I love Lil Kim, man. I love Lil Kim, and I'm sorry that she's mad. I never would have thought that by, me working with another artist, she would take it the wrong way." His tone suggested that he genuinely didn't grasp the depth of Kim's feelings, as if he believed that simply expressing love for her would mend the rift. But if she's taking it the wrong way, it ain't meant like that, you know what I'm saying? Diddy continued to frame the situation as one of misunderstanding, insisting that Nicki's never did anything to her, Nicki never did anything to ever pay her harm, and she ain't trying to swagger jack or say nothing negative about her. This statement seemed to minimize Kim's valid feelings of betrayal and frustration, presenting Nicki as the innocent party in the saga. He went on, trying to pacify the situation by suggesting that Kim needed to reconsider her stance. "And I just think that, Kim, needs to just understand that Nicki as a whole has always been respectful of her, and Nicki's not trying to be her." Diddy concluded with a somewhat condescending observation about the nature of the rap game. "So we riding with Nicki, and we still riding with Kim, you know what I'm saying? We love and respect the days and the history that we've had with Lil Kim, and it ain't no beef. But Kim is gonna be an MC, and MCs, when they coming back out, a lot of times they like to talk crazy and do what they do." This dismissal of her feelings, labeling them as typical MC behavior, at the heart of Diddy's comments was an attempt to present himself as a mediator, emphasizing mutual respect and love for both artists. "At the end of the day, everybody respects Lil Kim for being the queen bee," he declared. He pretty much brushed off any need for an apology, telling Lil Kim to stop acting crazy. "I ain't going to make no apologies for working with Nicki Minaj," he said, acting as if it was no big deal. He claimed he never thought Kim would have a problem with him collaborating with another artist, but if she was upset, that was her issue. Seriously, talk about shifting the blame. Then he had the audacity to defend Nicki, saying she never did anything to harm Kim and wasn't trying to copy her style or throw shade. Well, Lil Kim wasn't going to let that slide. In an interview with Atlanta radio host Ryan Cameron, she went full throttle, laying out how Diddy had betrayed her. "Puffy tried to reach out 100 times, but I feel like both of those two were a big, major part of the problem, so it was really nothing to talk about." Kim continued, sharing her feelings about Diddy's actions. "As far as Puffy goes, I feel it was very disrespectful. After being with him for so long, I remember plenty of times when I'd say something that might have been offensive about someone. Back in the day, Puffy wouldn't let those records go out. He'd say, "No, no, no, you gotta change that. You can't say this," especially if it was about someone he had a relationship with or was making money with. He wouldn't let that slide, so that's what really bothered me. Now he's sitting there saying, "She's mad because I wanted to work with another female." Seriously, how ridiculous is that? How many women has he worked with that I was totally fine with or didn't have a problem with? So his excuse just didn't add up for me. Lil Kim wasn't feeling Diddy, especially regarding that movie about Biggie. She felt completely shortchanged when it came to her portrayal, having no say in how she was represented. According to her, Diddy made her look like a talentless tag-along who just rode Biggie's coattails to fame. Can you imagine seeing a major motion picture drag your name through the mud, reducing you to some one-dimensional stereotype? Kim opened up about how painful it was to see her hard work and talent completely discredited on the big screen. And what's even worse? She claims she wasn't given a chance to tell her side of the story at all. Instead, Diddy allegedly let that false narrative play out without any pushback, completely wrecking Kim's image and credibility as an artist. Lil Kim reflected on the movie Notorious BIG, recognizing that her story played a significant role in its narrative. When asked about her involvement, she responded, "I'll keep this short because I think everyone knows how I feel. I hated everything about that movie. I hated that I wasn't involved in any way. The situation became so frustrating that she even had to bring her lawyers into it, which ultimately resulted in a check for her. But honestly, that was just a small consolation. Everyone knows the film was green-lit and shot without her permission, and that betrayal hurt more than anyone could understand. It wasn't just a professional blow, it cut deep on a personal level. It took her years to rebuild her confidence and sense of self-worth after Diddy's betrayal. While she sometimes looked to Biggie for advice, that was a different dynamic altogether. She was young when she got involved with him and didn't fully grasp the implications of being with a married man, but she was completely committed to him emotionally. It wasn't right how everything unfolded. Kim didn't know how to handle it at the time. She was still figuring things out, you know. If she could go back, she definitely wouldn't have gotten involved with a married man again, but back then she was naive and didn't see the bigger picture. Honestly, she was more upset about the situation than anyone else. Looking back, yeah, she acknowledges that the woman was married to him, but he was seeing multiple women on the side. He could be a real jerk, but despite that, she loved him deeply. He was her baby. Lil Kim had seen firsthand how Diddy allegedly mistreated women and sabotaged their careers out of jealousy. As her star began to rise and she gained more recognition in the industry, it became clear that Diddy couldn't handle the idea of a woman outshining him. It was a pattern that she observed, one that showed just how threatened he felt by her success. One moment that stood out for her was when she had the incredible opportunity to collaborate with none other than Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, those are the only two people in the world that I ever wanted to just go and fan out for, she recalled. Rodney Jerkins, who was working on Michael's album at the time, approached her with exhilarating news. He was like, "Yo, I was playing Queen de Recrede for Michael Jackson." And he was like, "Man, I love how she raps behind the beat. It's so sexy." I was like, "He said that?" Rodney confirmed, "Yeah, so I'm telling you that to say we're trying to get you on the album." Like what? The thrill of that moment nearly overwhelmed her. She remembered almost falling out of her seat from excitement. However, that thrill quickly turned into disappointment when Diddy allegedly pulled the plug on the collaboration behind her back, effectively blocking her from this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Let me tell you what happened. Puffy was my manager at the time, and when we brought it to him, he just shut it down. Puffy can be a little controlling because I was like his little sister. It was like he didn't want anyone else to have me. Lil Kim remembered the whole situation being such a mess. I don't know what was going on. Maybe Rodney and Diddy had some beef at the time or something, but it just never happened. I was young, you know, not really handling my business like I should have been. But I remember running into Rodney and he's all, "Yo, what's up? I've been calling you and you don't want to be on Michael Jackson's album?" And I'm sitting there like, "What? Are you crazy? Of course I do." But I had no idea what was going on behind the scenes. That collab with the King of Pop? Totally out of her hands. "It was a missed opportunity," she said. "Not because of anything I did, but it was just out of my control. And man, I really, really, really wanted to crawl under a rock and die after that." Talk about petty drama. But instead of letting it break her, Kim channeled all that pain, anger, and betrayal into her music. She didn't hold back either. Her lyrics became a call-out to Diddy's shady ways and a demand for the respect she was long overdue. But even after all the diss tracks and putting Diddy on blast, he still didn't seem to get the message. Kim even went off on him backstage at one of his concerts. She let him have it. Everything she'd been holding back just poured out. And now, more and more people are starting to come forward, backing up Kim's story. The pressure's building on Diddy to finally face the music. It's starting to look like Diddy is finally facing the consequences of his actions, perhaps where he really belongs, behind bars. What do you think? Was Diddy just a victim of circumstances, or does he have some responsibility for the chaos that surrounded Kim and Biggie? If you found this discussion intriguing, make sure to check out our other video for all the latest tea.